What is good, people? Welcome back to another video on 8 Count. In today's video, we are going to be discussing the AJ Usyk fight. I've got another upload coming up later on today. I'm going to be discussing UFC 278, Usman versus Edwards. As always, guys, before we get into the video, if you do enjoy it, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming content. And comment down below in this video, let me know how you did score the Usyk AJ fight, because I'm seeing a bit of some cards which are a bit fishy online. Maybe mine's a bit fishy. Let me know in the comment section down below. Let's just get straight into it, guys. I think the fight was very different to the first fight, but also very similar. It was a bit of a weird one. If you've seen the interview, you know, it's same, but different. For me, I think we should start off with the scorecards, because I personally scored it 117, 111. I think some rounds were slightly closer, and I could definitely see him going either way, but I find it hard to see anyone who's really got it within 1 point, in the end. If we look at the actual official scorecards, I think they're a bit weird in some ways. I think 116, 112, I think this guy's got it. I think that's a fair scorecard, one off me, giving one more round to AJ, which I can definitely see. The other guy in the end, he's got 115, 113. I think that's getting slightly closer, but, I could probably see that as well. I think there was maybe 2 rounds which I could have scored differently for AJ. And this middle guy, Glenn Feldman, I think his name is, I really don't understand where he got his scorecard, given it, 113, 115 AJ. He gave round 9 to AJ, which I also did. But given AJ round 11, I really can't see that one. I guess we should probably just get into my scorecard, how I scored it. I gave Usyk the first round. I gave AJ rounds 2 and 3. Then I gave Usyk all the way up to round 9, where I gave Joshua a 10-9 round. But in there, I think there is a round where, despite no knockdown, I think you could consider a 10-8 Usyk just because of the amount of output that he had on there. It definitely was, a very one-sided round, and AJ offered very little in the round. I didn't end up scoring it 10-9, but I was talking to my mate at the time and I was saying, that one could have maybe been a 10-8. I think in MMA it definitely would have been. But it was a really kind of weird fight in terms of you could see the adjustments from AJ, but he did kind of slip into, especially in the later rounds, that sort of old style, which kind of disappointed him in the first fight. For me, I think you could see the differences in AJ and his head movement, I guess you could say. I think in the first fight, he's very reactionary in terms of, he'd only really slip out of the way of punches when something was coming, which was completely different to Usyk, who was constantly moving his head. And in this fight, I think AJ did move his head a lot more. And I think it did offer him, a bit more success in terms of, Usyk seemed a bit less willing to fire at times, especially early on. I think it took Usyk a while to really get into the fight. But when he did get into the fight, I think it was quite obvious that the jab started doing bits for him, and he was able to kind of use that front hand like I was talking about in my video talking about my prediction for this fight. In terms of the front foot, I felt that Usyk dominated this sort of battle again, and despite not being able to have so much success with the movement like he did in the first fight, he definitely had a lot of success there. I think AJ in this fight was definitely a lot more on the front foot and slightly more aggressive at times. I'm sure if I had the punch numbers up right now, it would show that AJ probably threw a lot more in this fight than he did in the last. And AJ did look a bit different. He was throwing a couple of, cheapish low blows, I guess you could say. He was definitely mixing up, but his body attack, once again, it was really nice in this fight, I thought. I thought when he went to the body, he was having success with it. And it was kind of weird that he kind of went away from it in the end. I couldn't quite understand that. I think a lot is being made now of what happened post-fight and, all that sort of dramatics. I'm not really into all of that, but I know a lot of people are. It definitely was weird, seeing AJ kind of furious in the ring after being so kind of respectful, and then leaving the ring, then coming back in and giving a speech of some sort. I definitely agree with Fraser Clark when he's talking about it on I think it was on the Sky Sports box office sort of reaction to it. And, you know, you're saying that he's kind of left out to dry, and, you know, he was kind of taking the shine away from Usyk. And I really do believe that, you know, that was Usyk's time to really give his message across of what he wanted. For me, in terms of watching the fight, I watched it in a pub with a few of my mates. It was definitely a bit harder of a viewing experience than watching it at home. You know, I was trying to watch the fight whilst also having a hollaback girl, you know, blasting out with the speakers, which was definitely a bit of a weird one for me. So I tried my best to score it. Like I said, I feel like my scorecard is just at 117, 111, but, you know, 116, 112, I can definitely see. And 115, 113, you know, you twist my arm and you can have that one, but no way are we scoring it for AJ. I think for Usyk, this was a big statement as well. You know, I think he was a big favourite coming in, and at times, you know, he was kind of, you know, AJ put it on him, but he resisted it and stood tall, and in the end, he put it back on AJ. I think, you know, the one round, I think it was round 9 when AJ kind of, you know, was having success, but I think the commentary, which I couldn't really hear, but I could hear the people's reactions to it. I think there was a lot about it, which was kind of over the top in terms of, like, I think a lot of stuff was being blocked by Usyk, and his defense is a very strong part of his game, in my opinion. You know, nothing really lands clean, you know, a lot of stuff off the shoulders and off the gloves. But the round after, where Usyk came back, and I think he was so smart, you know, it's heavyweight boxing, and he was clearly up in the fight. I was a bit kind of worried for him in terms of going to the judges, because I felt like there could have been some absolute bullshit going on and they could rob him. But I think he stuck to his kind of guns. And when he had the chance to kind of tee off on AJ, he took his time and, you know, he picked the right shots to throw with power. And the other ones, he was just, you know, constantly making AJ defensive, you know, just throwing, you know, 5-6 punches at a time and really making AJ, you know, kind of shell up. And I think he did a great job. In terms of what AJ said after the fight, you know, going, people are complaining because he doesn't fight like Rocky Marciano and stuff like that, and he's saying because he's heavy and, you know, he's not 14 stone. I think that's fair, but I don't really think anyone's kind of said that about him before. I think what people were asking for in this fight was kind of just, and I think he tried his best. I think on his day, you know, I think if they fight this fight 100 times, I find it hard to think that AJ wins more than 5. If you do it like that, I could see AJ maybe catching him here and there. I think what we've seen now over 24 rounds between these two is the levels. You know, I think AJ said, you know, he wasn't this kid who was brought up from the age of 5 boxing, and I think that's fair enough. But Usyk is just next level. I don't think there's ever going to be a stage where AJ can really close that gap unless Father Time really catches up to Usyk. And, you know, Usyk is a few years older than him. I doubt we see this fight again. You know, Usyk's calling for the Fury fight, and Fury's calling for it too. I think it's definitely an interesting fight, which kind of has to happen. The way I see it is, I think Usyk will struggle to get in range of Fury in that fight. And even if he does, I think he's going to struggle to really earn respect of Fury in terms of the power he possesses. I definitely don't think it's as clear as saying that there's no chance for Usyk in the fight like I've seen online. He definitely has a shot. I'm sure he'll be an underdog going into the fight, however. But it's definitely one which would be super intriguing. And, you know, I don't think Fury finishes Usyk. I think it's probably a decision. And I think it's probably a fight we see, you know, depending on how the fight goes, we could see it 2 or 3 times and it would be an absolute blockbuster. And I'd love to see that. In terms of AJ, what's next for him? I'm seeing a few shouts for retirement, maybe a bit premature. You know, he's 32 and he's a heavyweight. You know, he's still relatively young for the weight class, and especially in boxing terms. And in MMA, we see it all the time that, you know, some people in, you know, the heavier divisions don't really find their sort of true, I guess you could say, peak of athletic performance until they're around 35, 37. You know, I don't think this is AJ has leveled out. I think it's going to be hard for him to get a lot better, just because I think he struggles with some of the physical attributes that he's kind of put on himself. He's very kind of muscle bound, and he is similar to Bruno in a way, but he's very different in other ways. I think Bruno was a lot more tighter and probably a lot more powerful. In all honesty, I think AJ, because he is so big, he's going to struggle in terms of 12 rounders, like he said. But I definitely don't think he should stop right now. I see a lot of people call him for the Deontay Wilder fight as well. I think that's an interesting one in terms of, can AJ get to Wilder before Wilder gets to him? Because in my opinion, I think that AJ is very hittable. And with the power of Deontay Wilder, it doesn't take much to knock somebody out. And AJ, he definitely could fall victim to this, and it would be a really interesting fight. For me, I probably would actually lean towards AJ, despite in the past, I think I've said, I think Wilder would spark him, but I just have a feeling that against Wilder, AJ would be a lot more, comfortable in the fact that he can use the offensive weapons, which he has, because Wilder's not going to be able to take those weapons away like someone like an Usyk or a Fury would, in terms of the jab was never there for AJ. It was there slightly at the start of this fight, but as soon as Usyk gets the front hand going and he's able to lay traps with it and he's able to take away the jab, it really kind of nullifies the entire game of AJ in terms of he cannot get that right hand going. It'd be an interesting one to see if, can AJ kind of do a Ruiz 2 job on Wilder and stay away from the power and, kind of piece him up himself. I think the finish would be there for AJ because he's still a very athletic fighter, and when he lands, he can do damage. I think it'd be interesting to see what sort of game plan he would kind of take against Wilder. That'd definitely be one I want to see. I think retirement's a bit too early right now. I'm not the biggest AJ fan. Like, I don't really get too carried away with, oh, I love this fighter. In the past, I've been there, especially on the MMA side. Growing up, a huge Anthony Pettis fan. That one kind of backfired on me. But, in terms of boxing, I try to keep myself distant. I'm probably a bit too, a bit invested in Fury if I'm being honest. But it would be a fight I'd like to see. I think retirement's too early. I think in terms of this fight, the better man won, and there's a gap in skills which will be very hard for AJ to ever recover, and ever gain on. But in terms of the post fight, I think AJ will look back on that and kind of be embarrassed in terms of the way he kind of acted, throwing the bouts out the ring and kind of taking the shine away from Alexander Usyk. I think in the post fight press conference, he was very honest, breaking down, crying, and it was sad to see because he's a guy who carries so much charisma and energy, and he always seems to be upbeat. But you can tell, like, if you look at him, that there's more going on than meets the eye. I think Eddie Hearn is right in terms of the amount of pressure which is on his back. He's a huge star here in the UK, and I think that it is kind of transcendent globally now. I think it's one where he probably could do with some outside help away from boxing, because I think it's probably hard being in his position, having the weight of so many on your shoulders and, taking that into the ring. I'd love to see AJ come back to boxing. I still think he's got a lot left to do. Usyk, loses to Fury. But the AJ fight is still as big as it's ever going to be. We probably should have had it by now. It's still going to be big. I do think it's one of those, though, where you'll probably fall up short. But it's still one which I think would do a lot of money for both fighters and, do great things for British boxing in general. As always, guys, like I said at the start of the video, if you did enjoy this video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Comment down below, let me know how you scored it. Like I said, I had it 117, 111. Some of these judges had it 116, 112, which I agree with, 115, 113, slightly agree with. But if you had it for AJ, let me know and give me the reasons why. I'd love to see what you kind of thought and your reaction to the fight. I'll be back now. I'm literally going to record it straight after this. I'm going to be doing my reaction to UFC 278. There is a new British champion. And I hope you enjoy that video as well. And I'll see you very soon. Take care. Peace out.